Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Medieval Reader. So today I want to talk about two books by a French author that Jane Austen fans might really like. I'm not really a Jane Austen fan. I've tried reading two of Austen's works, Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility. However, both books that I'm going to recommend I really enjoyed, and they deal with similar themes. They're somewhat satirical about the French court, and they also make some interesting commentaries about marriage. Marriage as a union of love, as opposed to what was traditional at the time, marriage of convenience. So let's begin. The most famous of the two books is The Princess of Cleves by Madame de Lafayette. It's La Princesse de Cleves by Madame de Lafayette. This one is about a woman who in the beginning is called Mademoiselle de Chartres. She is quite young, she's like 15 or 16 years old, and her mother has sheltered her, tried to, teach her though that marriage should be about love, which is surprising. Eventually she marries. It is a marriage of convenience. He's wealthy, but she doesn't love him. Instead, she loves Monsieur de Nemours, and it is really interesting. There's some intercalated stories in actually this one and the other story I will be talking about, and the intercalated stories just add more drama and do actually move along the plot. So they're not like Dickens where sometimes there's all these tangents that don't really mean anything. I think that they really introduce you to the characters. You get to know the characters more because of the intercalated stories, and you get to see how the Princess of Cleves really grows as a character from the beginning to the end of the story. It's also one of the first novels that really looks at the interior thoughts of a character and has the character really reflect on his or her experience. I definitely recommend this. This is the most famous of Madame de Lafayette's works. Madame de Lafayette was a 17th century novelist in France. She wrote actually shorter novels than, say, Madeleine de Scudéry, whom I mentioned a few weeks ago, who wrote the 13,000 page book. No, she wrote shorter books, and so they're very digestible, they're very readable, and quite entertaining. And this story is set actually in the 16th century, wherein Henry VIII, well, right after Henry VIII has died. So there is a lot of discussion about the relationships between the French court and the Spanish court and the English court. Lots of families are mentioned, but if you really like Regency stories, then I would definitely recommend The Princess of Cleves. Next one is Xayide. Now, oh, look at this cover, isn't this great? Okay. Xayide takes place in the 10th century. And in this story, this isn't actually historically true, the Moors, who were Spanish Muslims, have been completely eradicated by the Catholic Spanish. And the son of a Castilian prince named Consalvo, he begins really depressed. He hates women because he's had such a terrible experience in the past with a particular woman, and his friends had really acted behind his back. And then in addition, his sister had been in a relationship with this other guy without Consalvo's approval, so he was really bitter. Then he sees a girl named Xayide, and she's weeping over the death of some man. We don't know who he is, but she is the daughter of a Muslim prince, and she has survived the shipwreck along with another woman. And Consalvo is really jealous because he's in love with her, but she doesn't love him back. The intercalated stories in this one are much longer than in The Princess of Cleves. There's a lot more digressions, and the stories don't always have the most relevance to the storyline. Not as much as in Princess of Cleves. So if you want less digressions, I would recommend this one, but if you are okay with that, I would recommend Xayide. Both are really enjoyable. Personally, I preferred Xayide because there's a shorter cast of characters. The Princess of Cleves, it was really hard for me to keep track of all of the different characters, but if you're really used to that was my biggest problem with Jane Austen too. So I mean, again, if you really like Jane Austen, I think that you should try Madame de Lafayette. So yes, The Princess of Cleves and Xayide. There was this huge controversy surrounding this book a few years ago. When Nicolas Sarkozy, who was the former president of France, he basically ridiculed the teaching of the Princess of Cleves in French schools. He felt like it was useless, that a regular fonctionnaire, a government worker, he was thinking of women, that this was fluffy chicklet, that it was not worth studying. And many young people were so upset that they had staged readings of the Princess of Cleves all over France in protest of the blatant sexism of Sarkozy, but also in defense of reading quote-unquote chicklet. This is some excellent literature, and I definitely recommend it. Even if you don't like Jane Austen, I think that you will really enjoy these. They are satirical like Austen, and again, they are interesting commentaries about marriage in the 17th century. Let me know if you've read any of these, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.